Hey, what's up guys? Sergeant Arms Harrison here today, and today I'll be talking about the basics of VMs and VMware, which includes an explanation of what it is, why we use it, and how we use it. To start off, let's answer the question, what is a VM? A VM is short for virtual machine. A virtual machine is an isolated container which runs an independent operating system or application inside of it. VMs are a very useful tool because they allow us to create completely new machines without having to install it on a brand new drive. It also makes it much safer because if you mess anything up, it won't affect your primary system. So you can install as many viruses as you want and nobody can get mad at you. There are many applications that you'll see for virtual machines. Two of these are known as VirtualBox and VMware. For the sake of this video, we will only be talking about VMware. VMware is a virtual machine manager, as you see on this screen, which allows you to create, remove, and edit virtual machines as you please. So once you have VMware open, to create a virtual machine, you have two options. Create a brand new virtual machine or open an existing virtual machine file. First, we're going to create a brand new one. Let's go through that now. So here you have another two options. You can install from an ISO, or you can install one later. What you're going to see most often is we're going to install from an ISO. So that's what we're going to do now. So what you're going to do is you're going to press Browse, and you're going to look for an ISO file. In this case, let's use this Linux ISO. An ISO is an operating system image that allows you to install operating systems onto a new drive. So we're going to open this. If you look down here, it says could not detect which operating system is in the disk image. You'll need to specify which operating system will be installed. That's fine. We're going to press Next. So we know that this is a Linux operating system, so we're going to press Linux. In this case, I don't actually know which operating system this is, so what I'm going to say is I'm just going to put it to Ubuntu, just to be safe. I do know that it's 64-bit though, so I'm going to do Ubuntu 64-bit. I'm going to press Next now. You can call it whatever you want, so for this case, I'm going to call it Linux Test. You can save it to wherever you want. In this case, I'm going to leave it at default. I'm going to press Next. So this is something you need to be very considerate about. Whenever you specify the maximum disk space, it actually takes away from your disk space. So let's make sure that we have enough disk space to host this operating system. So we look at my files here. We can see that on my local disk, I have 180 gigabytes free. That's enough for this operating system. So I'm going to leave it at 20 gigabytes because that's all I'm going to need. Leave this at the default. We don't really need to mess with this. We're going to press Next. So you can review your settings here, and you can press Finish. We can customize things like the memory and the processor count later. We'll press Finish, and it's going to create our virtual machine. Here it is. So now we have the option to play virtual machine and edit virtual machine settings. For this case, we want to increase the RAM value because I have 16 gigs of RAM I can utilize. I'm going to press Edit Virtual Machine Settings. Here it says we are using 2 gigs of memory and 1 processor. What your computer will do whenever you start a virtual machine, it will reserve all those resources for that virtual machine, meaning you can't use them while the virtual machine is using them. In this case, I have 4 processors, so what I'm going to do is bump it up to 2. For the memory, I have 16 gigs, so I'm going to let it utilize 4 gigs. Now I'm going to review all the settings. Looks good. One thing to consider is the network adapter. In most cases, you'll be using NAT, which shares the IP address of the host. We can talk about this in another video. Now I'm going to press OK. Now that we have this virtual machine set up, we can press Play Virtual Machine and it will start our virtual machine. That prompt you saw there was an option to install virtual machine tools. In some cases you'll need them, but in this case you won't. So it's up to you if you want to install them or not. So now that we've started our virtual machine, we know it works. And this would boot into a Linux operating system once it found a operating system on the network. What we're going to do is we're actually going to exit this virtual machine now. So awesome, we've got a virtual machine set up, that's all we need. So let's take a look at this one. This is virtual machine not found. This virtual machine is corrupt and it was deleted. So I need to remove this now. Let's also remove Linux Test because I'm not going to use that ever again. So what you're going to do is you're going to right click and you're going to press Remove from Library and Delete from Disk. We'll start by deleting from disk. This also removes it from the library too. In this case, it's already deleted from disk, so all we need to press is Remove from the library. And it's gone. And now you have a clean window, where you can create new virtual machines and open existing ones. In CyberPatriots, we'll be using virtual machines to run our competition images. So it's good to know how to use them beforehand. That's all for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, please share and give it a like as well. Let us know what videos we should make next, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask any of the officers. Now that you know about virtual machines and how to configure them, you'll be well on your way to a successful competition.